Now, just to keep me on my toes. All right, guys. Well, it's the last meeting in October, and um, we're heading deep into the fall. By the way, one announcement: the next Zoom meeting will be 3 weeks away, not two. The reason being is I want to keep to a 2 meeting per month cadence. So we did the three. We ended up having like 3 meetings in November, so I just shifted by 1 week. So of course, you'll see the usual emails from me when it's ready to be the week of. But just in case you 2 weeks from now saying, "Where's the email?" Now you know you've been advised. But at any rate, I hope everyone's doing well. Before we get started, I usually have the usual any announcements, any shows or interesting events or other things that we should be aware of and we can spread the word on.
John, I'm wondering if you are working on Wi-Fi or a direct connection, because occasionally your audio is breaking up a little bit.
Oh, really? I'll see if I get a little bit closer. I am working on Wi-Fi, and it's generally a good signal. I have had no trouble at work, but let me know if it is a problem, Tom. I'll try and I'll monitor this. In fact, the last Zoom meeting, I was on the same laptop, same Wi-Fi, and wasn't a problem I'm aware of, but who knows?
Sometimes there are bandwidth problems unless you use the direct connection. I've found it certainly, we can hear everything you're saying. There's no question about that. It's just for a perfectionist, I hear a little breaking up.
Okay, no, that's fair, Tom. The other thing is, and I think I might have gotten my little high horse in the past, is that Zoom, may, for all I know, maybe just treat as best effort traffic. And, even if you throw a large pipe at it, it still may be, on let's say a PON, passive optical network, you may still have congestion points. And it's no guarantee that, that while I have all this bandwidth in the house, that it's assured I'm going to get that, and it's going to make it like take a Zoom call and give it priority over other traffic. I think it just ends up getting best effort sometimes.
It could be. It could also be on my end. Anybody else notice occasional breaking up in John's? Okay, Bruce, you're
yep.
And John,
yeah, I heard it.
Maybe it's Vermont.
Well, actually,
John is nodding his head too.
Actually, truth be told, I talk that way. I'll go. But
I think when he speaks softly, that's when it starts to break up a little bit.
Okay,
so
it could be the microphone. Maybe it's the microphone, Lou. I mean, it might be that
Try that knob. Try that knob that says squelch. Maybe you got a little too much squelch.
We got to be squelch free. But yeah, let me know if you guys have trouble. I'll see what I can do here. But at any rate, so other announcements worth noting before we sort of move on ahead. I don't see Bob here, Bob Harris, so I don't think there's anything. I don't think there's anything too important to announce, other than preparing for the big show in Castleton, but that's months away. But and we're still working on the website. We're working on that activity in the background. That'll be an ongoing effort for the next several months, I'm sure. So meanwhile, I'm working on updating that website right now to get ready for Castleton, have the poster and everything else. So hopefully I'll get that out in the next, I'd like to try and get that up by the weekend, so that you see the updated website. It's just the usual maintenance things. But at any rate, so with that in mind, I guess the next thing I wanted to sort of ask is, I always like to give some airtime for other events other than radio shows, direct club radio shows. Did anyone manage to go to the Steam and Wireless Museum event back on October 7th, or NEARfest? And anything to share, or purchases, or just observations?
Bruce and I went to NEARfest and had a very good time there. Howard Mariotti brought me something that I should have in front of me, but I'm going to share it, I think, next time with you. It's a quack medical device to end all quack medical device.
Oh, nice. We
I
like that.
could not resist it for my quack medical museum, and it's neat, but I'll wait till then. Bruce and I had a very good time, I would say, at NEARfest. He showed up with a trailer load full of stuff and a trailer load with a mattress in it. And Bruce had picked up a really comfortable mattress on his way to the show. So he, unlike me, had a very comfortable night. I was sleeping on one of these inflatable things in the back of my Chevrolet motel, and Bruce had a good time. Tell us a little bit about the meeting that you had, the dinner and so on, Bruce.
Yes, I attempt to attend what is called the AM dinner on Friday night at NEARfest. The AM means amplitude modulation, and those hams who are interested in that mode, which I am, you can see in the background, we gather at a nearby restaurant, and that's apparently been going on for a number of years. So it's a time for just sort of a lot of camaraderie and chit chat while we wait for our dinner. And you actually, pretty much because the group size is about 30, the wait time for dinner becomes extended. So there's a lot of time for chit chat, but it's good. And so that's what we did. And about the mattress, I mean, this tells you, I'm almost embarrassed to give additional details, but I decided late on that I would actually attend NEARfest, which is in Deerfield, New Hampshire. It's the largest ham radio flea market and swap meet in New England, maybe on the East Coast, north of Central or Mid-Atlantic. So it was forecast to be rain Friday and Saturday. Well, Friday cleared up the forecast, and then the forecast was better for Saturday, but nevertheless, I was too late to make a reservation in a motel. So I said, well, I'll just sleep in a car. 3 miles from home as I was passing a residential area, somebody had tossed out a mattress along the side of the road. I don't know what you're saying, bugs, wet, stink, everything. No, it was a great clean mattress. And so I stopped immediately and put it in the back of the Explorer, and that's why I was comfortable. It sounds awful, but it was okay.
Now, Bruce, did you find the night table on your way down?
No, I didn't.
Another interesting thing about this show is that in another part of the fairgrounds, we found an antique show that was going on Saturday parallel with the Hamfest, and it was called Brimfield North. And if any of you have ever been to the Brimfield antique show, it is horrendously big and very difficult to get through the whole thing. This was a lot smaller, but there was some pretty interesting stuff in that meet. And then on Sunday, that was Saturday. On Sunday, the last MIT flea market was held, and that was just marvelous. The first and last MITs for the season are just jam-packed full of people, and there were incredible things to be bought and sold actually at MIT. Wonderful bargains and fascinating stuff, and everything from pretty good assortment of antique radios, lots and lots of high and low and very low end audio equipment, and of course some ham gear and a tremendous amount of computer equipment. You could buy a nice Windows 10 laptop in working condition for between $10 and $20. Many of the people had bought out or been there when they were thrown out, huge piles of these laptops. When a corporation decides to upgrade, they just throw these things out by the hundreds. And there were people with truckloads of these things just selling them. And schools also often upgrade, and rather than trying to get any money out of the so-called obsolete computers, they turn them over to some guy who comes along and grabs them. So there were just truckloads full of really good stuff, lots of other computer accessories, monitors. You could get a really quite nice computer monitor, LCD screen. The sort of smallish ones were anywhere from $5 to $10, and you could get some of these great big, maybe 30-inch monitors for anywhere from $25 to $60. So it was just pig heaven for people who are into that stuff.
Wow. I got to get over there one of these days. Is this the last, you said the last one of the season, Tom?
It was the last one for the season. Yeah, they occur on the third Sunday of every month from April, which is the first time, through October, which is the last. And one of the problems for me is I've got to sleep in my Chevrolet motel on the streets of Boston in order to get my spot, which I need in order to set up a working Enigma display and get the electricity there and stuff like that. So it's a real pain in the neck, especially since if you miss feeding the darn parking meters, you're in for about $100 fine. And the other thing, a beautiful thing about Boston is if you feed the parking meter, it's good for 2 hours. And if you feed it another 2 hours worth of money, they hit you for a $45 fine because you're supposed to move your car after 2 hours, no matter what. So trying to figure out how to outsmart that thing, I figure, how can they know that I've moved my car or not? And so I figured maybe the darn meter has a little PIN diode in it that detects motion. And if it detects motion, it means you've moved your car. So I walk back and forth between my car and the parking meter, but I also moved my car about a foot one way or the other. And I didn't get a ticket this time.
That's funny. That's funny. All these intelligence put in. But well, it's good to know. I do have to go visit one of these days. I guess it sounds like I could come away with something cheap and useful. But well, thanks, guys. Thanks, Tom. Anybody else to share anything, or even recent purchases or projects and things like that before we?
I did go to Steam Up.
Oh, okay. Do share, Gary.
At the Wireless and Steam Museum.
Okay, Mark.
Unfortunately for that day, the weather wasn't quite as good as it was for NEARfest. It was kind of rainy and showers.
Oh, that's bad.
But we went anyway because we were going to meet up with a couple of friends who were at one of the. They went. I think they were at Foxwoods. They went to a show, Doobie Brothers show, but that's totally off topic. So they had 30 miles to go. I had about 90, but we met up with them there. The rain kind of curtailed the outside activities. They did have I don't call them tents. What do you call them? Those things on poles with a roof over them.
Oh, the canopy-like style?
Canopies. Yeah, they had a bunch of canopies up, so they could set up underneath them. And there was a lot of steam stuff, homemade models, steam. One section, large table, was set up using steam. Another one was set up using just air pressure.
Oh,
You know,
cool.
the quantity of that stuff there was down a little bit because of the rain, but there was still a good amount of stuff to look at. And they had a few things set up outside, you know, larger equipment. But the big thing was the stationary steam engines inside. They go run one after the other in sequence, like on a schedule. It's fascinating to see them run. They don't run them at high speed because they haven't checked the flywheels for their structural integrity.
Yeah.
They don't want them to fly apart. So there's a good
Bad
time.
things happen. Yeah. Oh, cool.
And the radio part was really wonderful. They had the is PJ the Massey Station building, I think, open, and there was a guy giving tours through there, and he's talking, about ham radio, giving a really good dissertation on the ham radio hobby, and it actually looked like some younger people were getting interested, and I mean like younger than 30 were getting interested. So and they have a great museum there of some very old wireless stuff.
Oh, well, great, Gary. That's glad that people are able to make. Somebody's got something to show. Okay.
Bob Merriam, who built that museum, died fairly recently, built a real spark transmitter, and it's a complete Massey station. And the telegraph key for that station is a Massey key, and this is a Massey key. And you can see from this thing why they call them brass pounders, the telegraph key operators. And this thing is just absolutely immense and very heavy. And they have one there that you can use. Did they fire up the transmitter for people, Gary?
Yes, they did.
Okay. Yeah. So you can sit there and you can push down on the handle of this thing, and a spark transmitter will start zapping away. And it's quite a thrill. This is a very interesting key because it was made by the world's only telegraph key counterfeiter, a man by the name of Phil Weingarten. And he found the plans for a Massey key, such as Gary saw in the museum, and he decided he was going to make these things. And it's quite an extraordinary piece. And he even made a casting
Wow.
of the label of the thing.
That's
and you
pretty
can
impressive.
see, if you can read that, it says Massey wireless and so on.
Providence, Rhode Island.
How do I know that this thing is a fake? Because I did an extensive study and numerous talks on Phil Weingarten, who was a really sneaky guy. He even, for those of you who may not recall, he made his own DeForest audions and sold them as genuine DeForest audions. I have a couple of YouTubes out there talking about that. But this key, he made about 5 of these. Actually, his machinist who worked with him made 5 of these, and he sold these things as original. And they sold them for about $5,000 to $7,000. It's a very important key for a telegraph key collector, and they are virtually indistinguishable from the real ones. There are 2 clues. One is that he used a sand casting of the label, which turns out to be not quite as good as the real thing. And the other is that if you unscrew the knob, this takes a little bit of doing. If you unscrew the knob of this thing and you look at the screw, the real screw is brass, and this is a cadmium plated 1/4 20 screw. So those are the 2 tip-offs that let you know that this thing is a fake. And this one was sold to a man by the name of Vince Thompson, who was one of the major key collectors of all time. And he paid $5,000 or $7,000 for it. And when he found out that it was a fake, he got so angry that he said, "Tom, come and take this thing away. Get it out of my house. I feel just awful." So I ended up with this thing from Vince, and I think it's absolutely a magnificent statement about various aspects of antique radio. Phil, as you may recall, if you saw any of my presentations, made many different kinds of antique radios and tubes. He blew his own tubes, and he kept a loaded Luger pistol under the cushion in his sofa in his living room to deal with or scare off people who came to him and were very upset about his having gypped them. So that's a really extraordinary part of the history of antique radio collecting, and profiteering.
So I take it Vince didn't pay Phil Weingarten a visit?
I don't know when he died. I think he died about the 80s. I met him a couple of times, and numerous people went over to his house and bought these things. He ran one of those little shops on Canal Street. For those of you who remember back to Radio Row, his was an unusual one because you had to go down a couple of steps into sort of a half basement. And in there, he just had tables and tables full of wireless stuff. And he would preside on this thing. And if he liked you, he'd give you good prices. If he didn't like you, he'd kick you out of the place. he was not a nice guy. Did anybody else know him? Robert, you're nodding your head. Did you know him?
Yeah, we think in our museum, the NJARC museum, we have the Forest clone that we think that he made.
Yeah, right.
But I knew about the Luger. Someone did a presentation on it. It may have been you a long time ago.
It was. I did it for the NJ Club, right?
Right.
Okay, I remember that because that was I never met him. He was a fascinating guy. That's the stories were amazing that you were telling. It was a great presentation.
You know, I had gradually collected a large number of pictures of his fakes. And I gave the talk at the AWA up in Rochester, New York, and I mentioned a particular fake that he had made. It was not a deforest tube, but a different one. And one of the guys who was there just turned white. He said, "Oh my God, I've got one of those." And he had paid a fortune for this thing. It was amazing because he brought it to the next year. He brought it to the show. And he decided he was really annoyed about this, and he couldn't take out his annoyance on Phil. So what he did was he put this thing in the auction. He paid $1,000 for this radio, and he put it in the AWA auction, said, "Just get this thing out of here. I don't want to ever see it again." And the price of the thing kept on going up. It got 1,000, 1,200, 1,500, 1,800, 2,000, 2,500. He made money on this thing, maybe made 3 times what he paid for it because Phil was dead. And when a counterfeiter dies, his work becomes a lot more valuable. I would say that this telegraph key, even with the provenance of knowing that it was a fake made by Phil Weingarten, is right up there back in the $7,000 to $10,000 range again.
Wow.
It was really amazing that counterfeiters, when they're dead, their stuff gets more valuable. I don't know a lot about fine art, but I wonder, because there were a lot of counterfeit painters who would make things and sign them with famous names, and I don't know what happened to the prices of those, but I wouldn't be surprised if they also escalate a little bit.
I think the same holds true, Tom, for entertainers and other famous people when they passed, and sometimes the things that either they made or their art or their belongings, they just, they go into an auction and people pay, exceptional money for this stuff,
Yeah.
So it's no surprise.
Tom, do you have any feel for how many real keys of that kind exist?
Yeah, Hugo, who was the machinist and made these things for Phil, made, I know, 5 of these, period. So all the rest of them are real. And I suspect that there are about 12 original Massey keys out there. I know of a couple, and of course, Bob Merriam at the museum you were talking about had one. It looks a little different. It has a phenolic lever on it. They were used to key World War I Navy transmitters right during the war. So the Navy had a fair number of these on their transmitters.
Interesting. Oh, that's great. In fact, actually, Tom, it reminds me that when we first started doing these club Zoom meetings, I think you were one of the first presentations, one of the first meetings you gave was on the fabulous fakes of Phil Weingart.
Okay, yeah, good.
That's well done. That's in on our YouTube archive. You know, if you look in there, I'm sure it's there. So that's a great presentation, fun, but a lot of interesting backstory on it.
Yeah, YouTube is really wonderful. It makes me feel very good because I'm 85 and I know I'm not going to keep on going more than another 15 years. I got to make it to 100. And I don't want to just pass out of the picture and have all my talks disappear. So I've been doing these talks on YouTube, and I think they're going to hang in there for a long time. I had that idea when I started collecting telegraph keys. I had 3,000 telegraph keys, and my wife said, if you die and leave me with all this junk, I'll never speak to you again. So that was a pretty bad threat. And I decided it was time to sell them all. I got rid of them all, but I put them all on the internet. And by God, they're there for people to see for as long as the internet is going. And I've paid people to keep my website up. And I think that's a sort of a neat thing to do with your collection. At first, I just had all these keys. I'd take them to Dayton in a trailer load with 3,000 telegraph keys. And if you can imagine what an idiot I was, and then put them all on the internet and get them out of the house. And they're there as we speak.
That's funny. That's funny. Well, you do have adding to your medical quack device collection.
Yes, I do have a few of those too. And actually, when I put all this stuff on the internet, I started out with telegraph keys, then I loved microphones. So I made a microphone museum, and then quack medical devices. And then I went to a bunch of other things that were relevant, and then sort of tailed off and became an enigma, not after having sold the telegraph keys. I figured I don't want to take 3,000 telegraph keys to Dayton anymore. It's really heavy. And instead, I went to Enigmas, and they're even heavier.
That's funny. Funny. Well, you know, hopefully when you give us the demo or the presentation next meeting for the medical quack device, maybe you'll find a test subject that you could use it on just to see how well it works. Or
Yeah, maybe I'll get my wife in on that. Howard, I haven't turned it on yet. Howard, did you turn it on before you brought it to get to me? I don't know whether you're still there, Howard Mariotti. He was in and out. Okay.
yeah, Harry, maybe.
Yeah, actually, sorry about that. No, I did try. I put a new cord on that, and it's as close to the original cord as I could find.
Yeah, it looks good.
It does work. However, either one or two of the bulbs are brighter than the other. I can't remember. I think there's one bulb that's brighter, even though it doesn't have a shorted filament or anything, but they all do light up. I put it on a Variac naturally and brought it up to about 80 volts. And it does get warm. So
That's neat. Well, we'll keep people in suspense, and
Okay.
I'll bring it next time, and I'll treat myself or somebody else. Actually, I have the left side of my barn is full of quack medical devices. I used to use them. Pardon me for talking here, but I used to be a neuroscientist, professor of neuroscience, and I would show my students how neurological diseases were treated in the old days. My favorite was the violet ray, and you turn on a violet ray and you put it up against your skin, and it forms sort of zaps, and really some neat stuff. And there's something called a FLEAM, FLEAM, which is just a spring-loaded knife, and you put it on a person's skin and you go zap, and it cuts a big hole in them. And that lets the evil spirits drain out.
That's funny. That's funny. Well, so yeah, well, we look forward to seeing that next meeting there, Tom.
I'll try and remember that. Yeah.
Actually, so I don't know if anyone else has any other announcements or things to share. But you know, Tom, since you been keeping the seat warm, would you like to show some pictures from Friedrichshafen for a slot, or I can pick it up with Brookline?
Yeah, if you don't mind, I will. I'd like to start out with some observations on a trip that I just took. I went on a boat around the Mediterranean looking at primarily antiquity. I was particularly interested in Pompeii. I had always loved that place and been there twice before, and each time they dug up more stuff, and Pompeii was really well dug out actually when I got there this time. But I go on a ship, and one of the things I like about the organization I go with, the National Geographic, is that they maintain an absolutely open bridge. No matter what's going on the ship, if you want to go up to the bridge, you can do it. And the bridges these days are full of really neat electronic stuff. And I've been a sailor ever since I was 10 years old, so I'm just fascinated by this. One of the things I learned the hard way on one of these trips was you may, if you know anything about boating, you know that when you're going into a harbor, red buoys are supposed to be on the right when you're going into the harbor. The saying is red right returning. And you use those buoys to sort of guide you into your dock. And I was on one of these trips in Europe, and this guy with a huge boat, I mean, this is about 100 people on board. He's sailing along at high clip into a dock, and the green buoys are on the right instead of the red. And I'm panicking, and do I say anything? And I sort of said timidly, sir, I thought the rule was that red buoys go on the right when you're entering the harbor. And he said, well, Tom, you're right about that if you're in America, but if you're in Europe, it's reversed. Who would have known? So if I'm lucky, I never went sailing in Europe until I learned this lesson. They really are very helpful. Anyway, let me see if I can pull up a couple of things that might be interesting, and then a couple of things, a few radios from Friedrichshafen. Let's see, we'll try share screen here.
Oh, let me enable it. Sorry.
Yeah, thanks, John. Right.
There you go. You're good to go.
Okay, thank you. Let's try it here. Now, let's see if we can see this monster. Can you see that thing there?
Oh, yeah.
That is Poseidon's revenge on humanity. For those of us who appreciate the old sailboats, square-masted sailboats, this thing pretends to be a sailboat, but it really has hundreds of people on board, and it's just so out of place that I had to take a picture of it. It's an amazing thing. But I wanted to share this stuff with you that I found quite amazing. This is the Radio Shack on board a modern ship. Do you see any radio equipment there?
Oh,
it's just terrifying. The little handy talkie that you see up in the top there is a satellite telephone, and all of these things over here are computers hooked up to radios, and a keyboard for the main computer, some telephones, and some more handy talkies. But I asked the radio operator, does anybody here know Morse code? He said, Morse code? You're living in the dark ages, kid. We don't have to learn Morse code. So not a single person on the bridge knew the Morse code. Now, in the old days, for as long as wireless has been in, people would monitor the distress frequency, 500 kilocycles, at the beginning of every hour, looking for distress signals, listening for SOS signals, and hundreds, thousands of ships were saved or helped with those signals. And that's just completely gone, absolutely gone. There's nothing like that anymore. So what do you have instead? Well, you have radio tuned to a high frequency, 8 megacycles, which is one of the emergency bands. And there is a list of the various emergency frequencies that you're supposed to be monitoring and listening in on, and the computer listens to all these things and alerts the crew if somebody is transmitting on these emergency frequencies. But there's no more CW, no more Morse code. And it's just amazing. And then if you hear a distress signal, you quick pull out your block diagram here and you go through this thing. Up in the upper left, hard to read this. My picture didn't come out very well, but a big event has happened in the upper left here. And if you go down here, is immediate help needed? Potential problem exists, and so on. You go over to communicate on high frequency, medium frequency, VHF, or Inmarsat to RCC and to ships. Then if immediate help isn't needed, you go on these other little courses through these block diagrams. So instead of the guy just sitting there and listening to an SOS and answering, yes, we hear you, where are you? We'll come and get you. It all is computerized, which I find just terrifying. And this is what happens if you're sinking. This is the checklist for sinking. You're in this boat. And what do? You don't send an SOS. You don't fire up the spark transmitter. You go to your little piece of paper here, and it says, you put this into your computer, message, new distress message, options, load, and then you type sinking. And then you fill in specific information, send, okay. Can you imagine? This is just horrendous to me to think that those, a century or more of Morse code communications has devolved into this. And anyway, I thought you would be intrigued by this. That's the distress signal device there. If everything else fails, you throw this thing overboard in the water, and it starts transmitting signals while you're sinking and while you're drowning. Unbelievable. Anyway, I'm going to go over to Friedrichshafen after that. I'm just very, very upset about that, but nothing to do. Every boat in the world is using this stuff. The one good thing is that on the bridge, they have a device, a radar display that shows every single major boat vessel that is near you, called automatic AIS, automatic identification system. And it gives you the course and the speed and the vector that vessel is making good with respect to your vessel. So it gives you a real good warning of potential collisions. And now that I've stopped flying my little airplane, they now have them for little airplanes too. If you're up in your plane, it will tell you what other traffic is up in the air with you, what altitude they're on, what their course is, and whether they constitute a threat. So I can go along with that part, but relying on satellites to send SOSs is a little bit scary. So I'm going to pop on. I think I showed you everything up to 29735. I'm going to pop along here and see. Well, yeah. Okay. See if I can find my way through this. 2, 2, 3. Yeah. Hold on a minute. NEVEC 2. No. Okay. 2, 3, 1. 2, 5, 8, 7. 2, 3, 1, 2, 5, 8, 7. Yeah, come back to 2, 3, 5. 2, 3, 5, 8, 7. 2, 3, 5, 3, 5. Sorry.
That's okay.
8, 7. There we are. So just some more looks at Friedrichshafen. These are quite a mix of different radios that you see here. The big guy in the middle is a German World War II field set. There's an American field radio in pretty bad shape on the left. a big German receiver, World War II receiver in the background on the left, and a bunch of other stuff here, helmet, parts of a helmet, the earphone part of a helmet from a World War I pilot's helmet, and various instruments from World War I aircraft, German aircraft. Down in front of you, you see a directional gyro, 2 directional gyros with needle and ball, which help you keep the airplane flying if you're in a cloud. So it just wonderful stuff turns up at the show. Here's a little closer view of one of the radios, and gonna skip along. This is, I believe, a direction finding set, obviously made by Telefunken. Not sure of exactly what it is, but it's an interesting piece. This guy is, what do we have, a Grundig?
Yeah, it's a portable.
Yeah.
Nice
Now,
condition.
what would you say the vintage of that would be, John?
I would say that's probably late 50s, maybe early 60s.
Okay. Okay.
So it could very well be tube base and not solid state, but they started transitioning to solid state a bit in the late 50s. So that particular one probably is tube.
Okay, and if you bought something like that, could you expect to find tubes for it?
Oh, sure. Yeah, that wouldn't be a problem. That's actually in pretty nice shape. Just looking at the cover, it's all there. The Grundig is clearly marked, no fading, the emblem is in the center. It's in
Right.
pretty nice shape.
Okay, this is obviously a Ewer tape recorder, stereo. Tape recorders are incredibly cheap. Ewer and various really good tape recorders are going for almost nothing now because everything's being recorded digitally.
Yeah.
This is an interesting little guy. Let's see if I can pull a little bit of enlargement on there. We can figure out what it is. It's a Teffy.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Uh,
Ross had one of those that he used to have as a it had the special wire the wire record, but the special platters you could play. It was from the late 50s. It won one of the best of shows some time ago, but I think it's the same company if memory serves. Yeah, you see that's a tape, that connection, that is the tape based music. And I think that's all part of that Teffy. I'm trying to think of the technology. It's not one that jumps at me, but I think that's
So
part of
maybe-
the same company.
Are you saying that thing on the left there with the
Yeah.
red coming out of it is sort of like a tape cartridge and you drop it
Yeah.
over the head and
Exactly. It was a
I think there's a
technology that-
button, there's a button that says Teffy phone. And
Yes.
Yeah, that was like a precursor to the 8-track tape cartridge, but the technology behind that, it's tape, but it's actually grooved tape and it's played with a
Right.
needle.
Right.
And its big claim to fame at the time, which is in the late 40s when it became a consumer thing in Europe, in Germany, was that it played with better fidelity and much longer time than records at the time did. And the development of the LP record and the 45 RPM record kind of stole its thunder.
Yeah.
And it lasted, marketing wise, it lasted to about the early 60s.
wow, thank you, Gary. That's amazing. I gotta have you come out to the show with me next year. Friedrichshafen, last weekend in June in Friedrichshafen, Germany. Wow. You can identify these things. I wouldn't have had a clue. Maybe looking at it real closely, I could see that was some kind of a cartridge, but amazing. I assume that it was a German set.
I think the Germans developed it, but I think that the radio brand may have been Italian.
Oh, okay.
I think.
Yeah. Okay, so it has 3 bands and the recorder Great, okay, thank you.
That didn't record. That was a playback only mechanism.
Playback only,
You,
okay.
you bought the tape and the cartridge pre-recorded, and then it played it was equivalent to like a long play phonograph needle.
Amazing. Has a different view of it, I guess.
Hmm.
And here we have another nice little Grundig, in pretty good shape. These things are really cheap. I imagine that set we were just looking at, I should have bought that just for the weirdness value of the thing. It's
Oh, yeah,
amazing.
that is not seen very often. Those are unusual. Like I said, Ross has one, but in a later 50s wooden cabinet, more typical form factor back in that that late 50s era.
Wow.
This probably, I'm not sure whether it's solid state or not. It's probably still tubes, but I'm not 100% sure because these are so infrequently seen, especially in this nick. Really nice shape. Person I've ever seen of this form factor. Ross is the first one I ever saw, and that was, about 5, 6, 7 years ago. He was trying to sell it at one point, and I don't know whether he sold it or he decided to keep it. But it's unusual to see.
Well, you got me really intrigued. If I see this thing next year, I might have to bring it home. It's just
You
so
bet.
absolutely weird.
They actually, I'm remembering a little bit more now. This technology was actually marketed in the U.S.
Oh,
For a couple of years. It didn't last very long. It was only marketed, I think, through one retail outlet, and it had a department store name. Macy's comes to mind, but I couldn't guarantee I'm right with that. And the brand name they put on them, it was a name probably more familiar with like commercial recording industry. I
okay.
can't think of it right now.
And I guess you could buy the pre-recorded tapes at the same place where you bought the radio.
Probably that would be the only place you could probably have gotten them at the time.
Yeah.
It was like around 1960 plus or minus a couple of years, I think.
Oh, very nice. Thank you. I'm going to keep my eyes open. I don't think I've ever even seen that cartridge. And God knows I must have been to 1,000 flea markets in my life. That's so cool to know what it is. Thank you. Okay, let's see what we got next. The Grundig, nice little Grundig. And this one's rather pretty, I think. Let's see if I can enlarge it up to.
It might be a Telefunken.
It looks like Telefunken, right?
Yeah, that is, yeah. Early 30s, I would say.
Yeah. The cabinet
Really
looks to be in
wonderful.
great shape and the knobs are nice. The dial looks good.
Yeah, it's in wonderful condition, actually.
Yeah.
The grill cloth, everything's in
Yeah,
beautiful condition.
nice. The grill cloth looks so good. It almost looks like it might have been restored, but hard to tell.
Possibly,
Yeah.
or well preserved. Oh, that's interesting.
This guy, I don't know. I see a little label in there. Can we tell what it is?
Lower right corner, what is that?
Gonig? No,
E?
Umig?
Yeah, it's hard to say whether it's an E. I see a G at the end and I.
Yeah,
Is EUMIG, UMIG?
yeah.
If it is, that's one of those lesser German radios that didn't last very long. It got absorbed by somebody. UMIG, don't find that. It's the first one I've seen. See, look at that. This stuff you never see in the United States.
Yeah.
But
Pretty good shape for.
yeah, there is such a thing. I'm getting a hit.
Well, it looks like a tape recorder over on the right. I wonder, that would be really something if it recorded those cartridges. I doubt it. It looks sort of like a normal. I hope maybe I got a picture of that. Let's see. No, I didn't.
Oh, that's a that I'm wondering, is that a Philips? I think that's a Philips. Yeah, I think it's a Falletta. I think that's a Philips Falletta. Yeah,
Philips.
that's probably like 1959, 60, that range. Those are wonderful little radios. In fact, Bruce just sold one on eBay that I seriously looked at,
Well,
but I kind of bought. It's one of those, and I forgot about it. Also, I'm sure it was. But yes, those are actually wonderful little radios. One speaker, but great reception. And they have these wonderful backlit. The lights, the dial lights are sit at the bottom where the key buttons are, so they sort of reflect upward. So it's just this nicely brightly lit dial face where the lights are just to the inside of the knobs. You get this really nicely lit dial face, good reception. It's a nice little radio. Those are desirable.
I guess the only real drawback to all these radios is that they all work on 220, so you need to have a transformer to run them. Although sometimes they have tapped windings and you can put a different plug on it.
Well, actually, even better, most of those radios, and it probably applies to that one, I'm not sure, but most of those had adjustable transformers. Almost all the German,
Whoa.
because they exported them, you could just turn to the voltage you needed. So even better, like almost all the ones I have, except for the ones that are dedicated for U.S. market, are all adjustable. So you can take it with you anywhere you go, Tom.
Yeah, right. Okay, what do we have here?
Well, that's interesting. Wow, some good stuff I've never seen. Look at that one. That looks like
Coal something.
Colry? Is that
KOLL.
Is
There's an
that a
I.
B-R-I, Colbury? Maybe it's Colbury. Is that a B-R-I?
Yeah, could be.
Wow, I've never seen one of those.
Yeah.
This is all like the UMake radio. It is such a thing, by the way, Tom. I checked quickly while you were presenting. That's an interesting. I can't even tell. But is that roll up? I'm trying to think of what this does. I guess you probably have to look at maybe the viewing window is directly in front where the black center knob is.
So the point I'm making here is you could just go wild buying radios you've never seen before. That's one of the real reasons that I love this show, is that there's stuff that doesn't show up in America at all.
Yeah, and probably good reason. It's probably good that I didn't go. Wow, cool stuff. Oh, look at that.
Couple of little recorders.
Lusso, is that Italian or something? I wonder. That one to the right has this interesting.
That is Italian.
Yeah, Geloso. The thing that really excites me in this picture, though, is that core memory that you see in the lower right-hand corner. Those things were hand wired by ladies in South America, and that is probably about a 1,000-bit core memory, consisting of many tiny little round cores that get magnetized when voltages are applied through the wires that, let's see if I can get this down, through the wires that are crossed and how do I explain it? Little round cores with wires that go in at varied angles and magnetize them either in one direction or another, and that became an early form of computer memory. Now, those things are selling for pretty good money on eBay as sort of the earliest form of computer memory, aside from vacuum tubes. Oh, I did take a picture of it. Okay. Nice little piece of computer history.
Oh, that's cool.
And what do we have here? A whole bunch of things that are interesting.
Phillips clock.
That one, Phillips.
Radio clock? What is a radio in there?
Yeah, where's Bruce Phillips? There's a Phillips on the left that I haven't seen before. Have you seen one of those?
Not like that. I'd like to have that.
Yeah.
That's very cool. I like that.
And on the right, I don't know what we're looking at. I don't think I'm going to be able to pull it out because I think I washed out the picture with the flash.
Yeah, it's hard to tell.
Yeah,
So many things I haven't seen before in this
It's got
show.
the same kind of sort of feet at the bottom as the other Phillips.
yeah,
Oh,
you're
yeah,
right.
maybe it is a Phillips. It could
Yeah.
maybe it might be fair there, Noah.
Nice detective work.
There you go.
Let's see what we got down. It looked like there was something down at the bottom that was interesting. Some tubes, I guess, but over on the left here, what do we have? An ideal patent ideal piano. What the hell? Round, hard to tell.
Maybe that's the word brand.
Brand, ideal
Yeah,
brand.
brand. Yeah, that could be. Yeah.
Nice. Prov patent ideal brand. Nice. And I don't know. I guess it's a round thing.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm curious what's in that window.
Yeah,
Mhm.
can't see, but it looks like a frequency band of some kind.
That's what I would guess.
Maybe it's an early VFO.
Yeah, right. For the broadcast band.
Yeah.
Okay, so a nice little handheld battery meter in the lower right, and a telegraph, something fair on the left, but the radio is can we read it?
I think that's a Telefunken. Is it a Bajazzo? Yes, it's a Bajazzo.
Telefunken.
There's a Bajazzo. It's not one you see very often. This particular one. It's
Yeah. Telephone,
AM/FM
right.
Bajazzo. I have a couple of those, a few of those.
Really?
My earliest one, I don't have this particular version. The one I have is from 1954. It was called the Bajazzo 54U, which is from 1954, and it was it was a export, so it has the full FM band spread. But what's interesting about this one, this is solid state, I believe. I'm not 100% sure. This could be the crux where it might be still tube. This is probably early 60s, is my guess. Because the stuff I have in the late 50s is not of this form factor, but I've not seen this form factor very often. This is really quite nice.
Looks to be in pretty good shape, yeah. And what do we have here? What is it?
Grundig, where is it? Nordmenda. Nordmenda.
Yeah.
That's I believe transistor. That's a Namba. What's in the name? I don't know, but it looks like just AM and shortwave.
Mambo, baby.
Mambo, yeah, the Mambo. Candy Grandpa Mambo.
And in front is a Telefunken condenser microphone. How about that?
All
In the
the goodies. Boy, I don't know what I had to have shipped a bunch of these home. Good thing I didn't go. Good stuff. Good stuff. You do see that Nordmenda sometimes. Oh, here, that looks like Phillips, I think.
Shall I blow it up? Yeah.
No, that's a Grundig. I see the little.
Oh, you're right. No, I was saying
Yeah, the
correct.
little,
You're right.
the clover or whatever it is, the three
Yeah,
hearts.
right. Yeah, somehow I thought it was a Phillips on there, but that's not one I've seen very often either. That's very interesting. And I think that's tube, but it's an unusual case.
Oops.
Yeah.
Okay. John, pull the plug on me when you're have had enough of this.
Oh, so far so good. We'll give you a few more minutes here.
Okay.
It's good stuff, Tom.
This is a very, very, very important and historic microphone. It's a ribbon microphone, and that whole thing, that big black thing, is a magnet. Very, very, very heavy, extremely heavy. It's amazing. It's sitting on that little mic stand.
Who made that, Tom? Do you know?
I don't know. There may be a label on the top.
I think that's Telefunken, Tom. I can't swear to it, but I think.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. Yes.
Oh, it is. Yeah, there's the
Yeah.
band.
Oh yeah, there it is.
Telefunken.
Yeah, because Telefunken's claim to fame was heavy duty microphones and of course tubes back in the day. In fact, you may recall, we had the auction.
So for a microphone collector, this is just heaven.
Yeah, that's probably could command some serious coin.
Well, I was at that auction and I put it up on YouTube, and
Yeah.
two of those condenser power supplied telefunken mics went for $37,000.
Yeah, right.
For a
These are
pair.
not cheap here either, but I bet you could have this for under 1,000.
Wow, it's very unusual.
That would be a great deal if it's a ribbon mic.
Yeah, yeah. So a lot of fun looking at those things.
That's terrific. That's really terrific. There's some really good stuff in this show.
This is an extraordinary wireless receiver. Pretty expensive, as I recall, was about $800, which isn't really that expensive if you're into this stuff, but I think it looks like it's a British set, since the writing is in English, and
So it's Mark. Yeah.
there's a carborundum detector.
Carborundum.
Yeah. And a little buzzer maybe up there, and looks like a crystal. Maybe that's the carborundum detector right there, up in the middle there. But really nice piece of wireless equipment, pretty good shape. Buzzer and key.
Oh yeah. That's very interesting.
And what do we have here? Wellenberry something or other. Wellenberry.
Youngin.
Youngin.
Way down the bottom, do we see a name on it anymore?
I see it. What looks to be the logo, I think, in the center. I assume that's a logo. It looks like
Yeah, I
Like
think
a
so.
P and a W or a T or something.
it looks like an
Yeah.
anchor. And maybe that's everybody saying, "Hey, it's yet another boat anchor."
DTW. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. This is really interesting, but it's clearly German. All too clear.
Yeah.
Oh,
And then on the left, and ROHREN are tubes. And it looks like there's an adjustment, maybe to go from a 2-tube set to a 3-tube set.
That's the local distance switch.
Under the,
Yeah,
it's too
switch
bad
out.
the angle prevents us from seeing it, but if you look on the knob to the left below, it says Deutsche, and then there's a T.
in Berlin. Yeah, something.
Yeah, made in
Okay.
Berlin.
Yeah,
And it's
Something,
probably
something Capella
Deutsche
Industries, something Capella
Deutsche
Industries,
Telekom Works or something. Could it be
Capella
work?
Industry, Capella
Deutsche.
Industry Berlin. Just the word underneath would be Deutsche
Yep.
something or other.
But I think the Deutsche something or other is like Deutsche Telekom Works or something. The DTW in the logo that you see, it's got to be the Deutsche is the D, and then the I don't know.
Maybe that's
Maybe there's a
actually
subsequent photo with a different angle that'll show us what's below there.
good catch there.
Tom, I have a question for you.
Sorry,
Your
I'll go
professional
back and
opinion.
retake the picture.
They'll
go ahead.
just put it in virtual reality mode and rotate it.
Yeah, that's right. Go ahead with
Tom, how would you date this device?
ask John. I don't know. I would call it 1930s myself.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Yeah, I would say
Maybe 40s, but
It looks like it's a piece of test equipment, but what makes it interesting is that look at the wood, the scallops on the bottom of the
Yeah.
cabinet there. You know, that they would make a piece of test equipment with such an ornate base. Interesting.
yeah.
The workmanship is beautiful. I mean, you know, it's actually an attractive cabinet. You even look at the dial needles and all nicely, you know, metal, especially the one on the left dial, the Wellenjangen.
Yeah.
You know, it's all beautifully done.
Some vintage heat shrink tubing on the cord there too.
Oh yeah, wow.
This little guy is typical. You see just hundreds of these on tables. They like building their own crystal sets, and I think they buy a lot of crystal sets. I don't see a name on this, but it's very typical of the kind of thing you see at the show. Little cat's whisker and maybe just a tuning dial there. And this
EG.
one, again, typical cat's whisker and a couple of dials.
It was the parent company of Telefunken.
Yeah. And these get to be really pretty. Some of the pieces. Let's see if we can read the tag on this guy. It almost looks like yeah, it's a
Western Electric.
Oh,
Like
cool.
Yeah.
You could tell it had to be either American or UK just because it's all English. But look at those two.
Boy, look at those. They're beautiful.
Wow, that's terrific.
Yeah, I don't see a model. Well, what's it say? It's a Western Electric 7 Alpha amplifier.
Wow. Oh,
Yeah.
some American hardware makes it out there too.
Let's go on to one more. This is a Otto Lutz and Company. Otto Lutz and Company in Berlin, an S59. Whoops, come back here. There you are. What does it say? Loose and fast on the tune.
Yeah.
Oh, fest.
Radio Amalo.
Yeah. Antenna. Who knows?
Some neat toys here.
And of course, lots and lots of coils. Okay, I think we saw this display before, but a little better
Yep.
view of that ideal thing down there that is intriguing. Like to know more about that. This year I made a real attempt to hold the camera super steady and take fairly high resolution pictures so that we could read the labels, but I'm gonna have to be a little closer to some of these things and look at my angles next year.
Oh, sorry, this is good. This is good, Tom. That
Yeah.
must be Italian. Is that Italian?
What does this say?
Gigi. The Gigi?
Or Gigi.
Lumophone works. Piggy, P-I.
Perera. Oh, maybe it's edit. Edit. I thought it was actually I thought it was a G, but maybe that's not a G.
Hmm.
But I see that maybe that is German because say America, German word. I initially thought it was Italian, but it doesn't look that way. Wow.
It's an
I've never
interesting,
seen one.
yeah. And one or two more, we'll call it quits for the
Yeah, that's fine, Tom, because you always pick it up next meeting.
Seen this guy before, and a nice what is it? Sure, Phillips. mic.
It's got
Yeah,
the Philips logo.
Yeah, like that logo is Philips. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that looks like a nice mic. It would have a big diaphragm. Should be fairly good quality audio. And back to these things. Let's call it quits here. We're at 2312619, and we'll go on next time.
All right. Well, Tom, thank you. That was delightful. Some good stuff. So now I'll take over and I'll switch over to our stuff here. Let's see if I got that. Yeah, I'm on. Right, let me go share now. We'll go see a few shots from. Here we go. All right, boys. So this is the start of my photos from Brookline. I apologize for the first few photos because for some reason my iPhone just was slightly not focused as well as I expected it to, and it gets better after the first like 2 or 3, 4 photos. So I apologize for that, but not too bad. This is John Huffnagel's table. If I can see his card there, he's from New York, like just north of New York City. Not what town, just doesn't jump at me, but I think I have his card. I think I grabbed one. I have to go dig it up, but I know I have it. It might be in my backpack still from the show, and I might have forgot to take it out. But he does beautiful restoration work, and it's a really nice work here. So this, I believe, is an Emerson, if my memory serves correctly.
That's actually an Emerson Callan.
Yeah,
This
that's
is Callan, and the white part, I kind of forget what that is. That might be Callan as well.
I think they also made a wood case version because of memory.
Yeah, they made wooden versions of these.
Yeah, so I'm pretty sure Bob Harris, like he had entered it, did a nice restoration job on the wooden cabinet version of this.
Yeah, he did a wooden one, and the wooden ones were quite common. The white on the front there is like a Plascon, but it's not. I remember having one. It was very durable, whatever it was. It might be just a urea formaldehyde kind of composition. But they also made this one in a different, like, marble color as well. But those are kind of hard to find.
Interesting. I've never seen one with that. That's very interesting.
Mm.
Nice radio. Here's a nice Zenith he did. This was fully, all John's radios are fully restored, redone cabinets inside. So this one in the Zenith, he's asking, I guess, $200, from the tag. Again, I apologize for the lack of clarity on this. Why my phone was being a bit persnickety. It was very early in the morning, so it does get better, I promise you. That's nice. I don't know what model Zenith is quite nicely done.
That's a 5-tuber. I forget the model number of myself. I actually utilized the same chassis as I think the World's Fair radio. I
Oh,
think.
okay. This looks like some sort of like carrier call. I'm not sure whether it's like an intercom style, unit that I see like sort of like a call switch or something. I'm not sure. Regrettably, I don't know. Maybe in my excitement, I should have taken a closer shot of the face. I can't really the lack of clarity because the focus problems sort of ruined this photo. I apologize, guys.
Certainly looks like a push to talk switch there, so intercom makes sense.
Yeah, and you can see another one in back of it.
Yeah, there is. There's a sister one back there. Yeah. So probably one of those large Victorian homes you communicated to each other. And have here.
Speaker.
But who makes it up?
Peerless.
Bill, is it?
I think it's
Yeah,
a
I think
Peerless.
Greg's right.
Yeah.
Nice. A few really old things that we get here. See, the pictures get clear. Atwater Kent here.
Mhm.
Towards below this. See, suddenly the clarity is there. Yeah, Crosley. That's a Crosley way down there. Actually, it's label. What does it say? Oh, it also says Crosley. Same style. With radios. I'm not sure if these are restored or not, but
That looks like that lamp that Noah was after in the last pictures.
Yep. To the right.
To the right.
yeah,
Yeah.
you'll see a better shot shortly. There, Noah. Yes, indeed. Yes. Ta-da! Look at that.
Dun, dun, dun.
This was $400. I remember because I remember seeing the price. See, it looks to be in, looks all there and looks to be in pretty darn nice shape. Now, but yeah, there it was.
I've seen much worse.
Oh, I'm sure. Oh, here's which one is this? This is
Coronado or Belmont.
I was thinking, is it Belmont?
Either Belmont or Coronado.
Yeah, I'm thinking Belmont, but it could be a Coronado. You may be right there, Craig. And it is. You got it, Belmont. Here is Belmont, 1939 model, 636. $250, fully restored. Looks to be in really nice condition. So overall did pretty nice work on this. I really like these slider switches.
Yeah.
But,
Emerson.
yeah, it's a nice Emerson. It's really quite nice. That was, how much is this? $350, if I read that correctly. And like, look at the beautiful shutter style grill cover. Really beautifully uh, designed. I assume this is probably an Ingraham cabinet, I would think.
Yeah. I think
Yes.
so.
What's that emblem above the 900 kilohertz? Looks like a pigeon or
I think it's the Emerson decal.
Oh, right above here?
Oh,
Yeah,
up above, yeah, it's the Emerson
yeah,
oh, okay.
symbol.
I see it now.
yeah.
Thank you.
Oh, no problem, Brian. Beautiful radio though. And here is a Midwest radio. This one's quite unusual. Now look at the woodwork and all of it. You know, very beautiful design. 650 restored. I think, by the way, if memory serves, was he at Kutztown? Because I seem to remember when we went through the photos from John
Yeah.
Hagman, I think this one showed up, and you don't see these every day.
Probably the same one.
Yeah, I think it is. I think it might have just come from Kutztown. It came out this way. Zenith.
Yeah.
Don't have the price on this one, but first restored, really quite nice. This, I think, is a silver tone, is it not? Yes.
Silvertone, yeah. I
Yes.
think a lot of these we had at Kutztown.
Yeah, that's right. We did see this at Kutztown. You are absolutely right, Greg. We covered this last meeting, or the meeting before when we were going through the Kutztown photos. This one was there too. Again, not that often seen, so.
No, that's why I recognized it.
And I think the number is 750, but I could be wrong.
Wow.
700.
Yeah.
But nice looking radio blend that you could see. Yeah, just look at, I guess, set back the tuning eye. I can see it just behind, like maybe like a half an inch or so behind the cushion.
Right.
There we go. I even got a better picture. It was well deserved to see the dial face. You can see the tuning eye clearly. Neat radio. And I can almost guarantee you that, yeah, 700, I think is the number on this.
Wow.
Here was a nice tube tester. Heat kit. 100 bucks.
Heath kit two tester.
Looks to be in pretty good shape. So I assume the manual is with it. I don't see it obviously, but hopefully there is. Well, actually, you have it's actually the scroll one. So actually, it is already part of it. That's 100 bucks. Seems fairly reasonable. Oh yeah, these are just some outdoor, soon to be outdoor speakers that this gentleman is selling. Must make some pretty good sound. They're pretty big for full. They're modern pieces. I just grabbing photos here. Techniques. Here's your Techniques. More of those. There's another guy. This nice RCA AM FM radio. I think this is a two-speaker. Pretty sure it is. I think it's a speaker here, so it's like probably a fairly nice little radio. And plus, it's a deluxe. Nice little radio, though.
It's almost in the style of the orthophonic stuff that they had at the time.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Yeah, indeed. It's acoustic dynamics. But
Built-in Dolby.
it is. Here's Toshiba receiver. Probably from the early 80s, like very late 70s, early 80s, I'd say. Just I think, what was this? Just a
Looks like a Kenwood.
Kenway, it is Ken. Yep,
Yep.
you called it. It's interesting. It had all these little push button switches and all. Interesting. Looks like mid-70s, maybe.
Yeah, I'd say that's the vintage.
Kind of neat in some way, stylistically and all.
It's in amazingly good shape.
It
Yeah.
is actually. It was really quite. I have no idea what the gentleman was asking, but pretty solid shape. Minor things, I would say, overall. And a set of speakers that may or may not come with it. So no, these are realistic.
Realistic.
So actually kind of neat looking. They're this design, the speaker grill and so forth. Probably early 70s, early 70s, I'd say.
Zenith clock radio.
Invariably you'll find ones floating about. Pretty good shape. I don't know what they're asking. The tag is kind of flipped over. But it looks pretty all there, and probably some polishing up, and you probably have usual electronics. Probably good to go. Say
It's an RCA back there.
those an RCA, yeah. There it is, in fact, or is that no? That's a different one. Not in bad shape. Needs a good cleaning and polishing. That's for sure. Cosmetic.
Mhm.
It's mostly there. I think that's turned
Yeah,
upside
have a nice backlit dial on those. They look pretty nice in the dark.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, that strip is brass. You can really shine that up on top. That little.
Oh yeah,
spear.
yeah.
Yeah. I had a couple of those. They're nice little radios.
Oh yeah. Good to know. T. Real.
It's a classic 1970s college dorm room kind of thing.
Yeah, you imagine carrying all this stuff up to your, whatever end floor you have to go up. Oh my gosh. If they don't have an elevator, those things are not light.
Yeah, but when you're 19 or 20 years old, it's not a big deal.
No, that's true. But even still, nice, and you're like, oh my God, you think what we take for granted today, how can we pick one of these babies up? Bring some friends. Let's see, we got a Donald a turntable and
It looks like a Radio Shack receiver under there.
that could very well be. Hard to say because I think probably the label's probably
Well,
obscured.
the paperwork's hiding the model number and all that stuff there, but
Chances are,
I want to say STA 77 is what it looks like. It's just a variation of that model.
You're probably right, Bob. Yep, here's a Zenith little compact, stereo, your basic stuff that a kid's room would have.
That's your college dorm
Exactly.
there.
Exactly. All your basic switch gear, basic record player, and you're good to go. A couple of speakers that give up after about midway up the volume band, and there you go. Kind of fun to see in its own way. Get those classic 70s stuff. The mighty free table. And there's more than one photo of this. There's Carl and John Weatherall all doing their rustling about. Now at this point in time, what do we have here? Very rare Velveeta box of cookies.
Looks like some headphones.
Yeah, some headphones, and there's a radio of some type. This stuff didn't last long, I'll tell you. People were really
looks like a clock radio. Looks like you got the knob sticking out the back to change the time.
Oh yeah, good catch there. No, it probably is. I'm not sure, there was a lot put out, but a lot went quickly, there were a lot of
Looks like
office
some
traffic.
car radio stuff maybe in that box.
Yeah, someone ultimately, yes, indeed. What does
Sure.
that say?
Oh, that is either a
Chevrolet.
let's see.
1950 Chevrolet.
That I'll tell you exactly what that is. That's a 55 Chevy radio right there.
55.
And I'll tell you why it's a 55. Well, the 56 is similar. The only difference between the 55 and 56 is the 56 Chevy radio had Conrad markings on it. The 55 didn't.
Ah, good to know. Good to know.
I know that for a fact. I did a 56 radio in one of my high school buddies' cars, and my uncle had a 56 two-door 150 handyman wagon. I did that radio for him.
Oh, cool. I was like those handyman wagons, the base ones. I thought they were kind of cool. Everyone gets the Bel Air, right? And the Ford.
They're kind of rare because they got used by like phone companies and delivery people and whatever. They were like the workhorse cars. The Nomads were, that was just the wife's car and go to the grocery store with and that kind of thing.
Right. The handymans who are thrashed about and
That handyman cars usually are hammered.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember my neighbor as a little kid had a 57 Chevy wagon. And I think it was like a mid-level, no more than a 210. I don't think it was a Bel Air, but I remember getting a ride in it. You could tell the engine was tired. You could even smell the oil. I mean, you could smell the oil even back when the car was new, but it definitely smelled like it was burning some oil. That I think I had a 283 in there. It was pretty tired.
By the way, one other thing, since we're on that car radio, I don't know if there's a piece of paper there and then there's some metal and stuff behind it.
Well, I think that's speakers behind it.
What I was
Oh,
going to say is that's a two-piece radio.
interesting.
And
Because it
power
looks like
supply
it says
and amplifier and-
1956. It looks like.
Well, did they get it right? The
Looks
question.
like the
Right.
vibrator sticking out there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the power
Precious.
supply.
Oh, it says 56, but I don't see any Conrad markings on the radio.
Yeah.
So
It may be
that's
mismarked.
actually I bet you if you took the numbers off of that and looked up a numbers book, that's a 55. Trust me on that.
You may
I
be.
may not look too bright, but I know my Chevy stuff.
Models 987 was at least labeled, but no, I don't doubt your expertise there, Bob. It may be mismarked.
But that's okay.
But it's kind of neat because I missed it and it probably flew away because it would have been kind of neat to just have it for the sake of having it, but assuming you get it to operate. But
In working condition, that radio is a couple $100.
there was also which I think I have a photo of later. There was a 55 Buick radio that was for sale that may have ended up on the free table. I forget now, but I remember taking a photo of it. So car radios do make it from time to time here. That is.
Well, somehow they find their way into my workbench because out of the 230 people in the New Jersey Antique Radio Club, when somebody needs a car radio gone through, my phone rings. Nobody else will do it.
Yep.
And they're really not that hard. I mean, the biggest stumbling block is getting the vibrator to work, and I know all the tricks on that.
Geez, Bob, you should have been up there. You could have had this for free.
Well.
Was there was there a replacement for the vibrators using a couple of germanium transistors? I seem to recall seeing something along those lines.
They do have some solid state vibrators out for sale nowadays.
Joe Coco, who comes to the meets, has a nice kit. I used one once, and I think he sells them for $10 or $15. He's got one for positive ground, one for negative ground, and I've had good luck with them.
If you have a vibrator radio, even if it's not necessarily a car radio, it could be for like an old airplane or something like that. There's a trick to taking a vibrator, which basically has rubber in between the contacts, and the rubber deteriorates and eventually screws up the contacts. That's why you could always find like a 50s car with a dent in the dashboard, and you're thinking, well, how that happened? Well, it's because somebody was punching the dashboard trying to wake up the vibrator.
Oh yeah, sure. You must have really
there's a way, and I actually learned it from our club guru, Al Clace, that you could actually take a vibrator and wire it up in series with like a 60-watt regular light bulb. And then slowly, what I do is I slowly bring it up on the variac, and then I just let that thing basically vibrate all on its own. And then it'll kind of like burnish the contacts. It'll self-clean them. And then I have a couple of vibrator testers where I could actually, it's made by Syncor, and I can plug that into a tube tester and plug the vibrator in there, and it'll verify that the contacts are going to work or not. And you can do that with either a 6-volt or 12-volt vibrator, and it doesn't matter if it's positive or negative ground. You can make all that happen. So I'm sorry, I didn't mean to get all long-winded on this.
Joe, you paddle away. We all do it. It's always fun to hear.
Bob, do you bother taking the case off and cleaning the contacts on any of them?
Oh, I used to when I was a kid, but not using Al's method anymore. But I used to do that.
Yeah, that was a pretty certain fix.
Yep. I had to find a very special vibrator for my highway hi-fi for my 57 Chrysler, because the vibrator had to be on the 60 hertz frequency because it was actually used to drive the motor of the turntable.
Right.
So you couldn't just stick any old radio vibrator in there. You wouldn't get the right speed at the
Now,
turntable.
was the vibrator for that was it polarity dependent? In other words, Chrysler is positive ground. Did you have to have a positive ground, or it didn't care?
No, well, by 57, everything was negative ground. So that was,
Oh, okay.
so that wasn't a problem.
6527 Zenith.
Nice little radio. Very attractive. You know, piece-wise design. Very attractive.
It's nice to see it in wood because they made a lot of those in plastic, and I kind of like seeing the wood.
Yeah, nice looking. I mean, it's just very attractive radio, and everything is there. Even the decals are quite readable. Can't tell if this was actually restored. Maybe it was.
It's not a bad radio. The only thing I recommend is Zenith used a lot of 6X5 rectifier tubes, and they have a tendency. I see Greg shaking his head. They have a tendency. He knows what I'm going to say. They have a tendency to short out.
Yeah.
So what I do is I usually add a fuse, usually like a 1 amp fuse, to the back of the radio. You know, you could probably put it in safety caps, but the thing is that if you hand over this radio to somebody that is not knowing what a safety capacitor looks like, I mean, the fuse is a no-brainer. They can look at it and see that's a fuse, and it's easily replaced, and then you just change the tube. But I learned my lesson the hard way. I had a Zenith literally short at 6X5 short out and melted the transformer. So and it broke my heart because it was a radio that I was just getting back into the antique radio hobby, and and starting to do radios. And it was like one of my first personal radios that I did, and I literally walked away from it for 5 minutes, came back 5 minutes later, and my whole basement was full of smoke. And ironically, the radio was still playing. That part amazed the heck out of me. The radio was still playing despite the melting of the transformer.
Wow.
So I unplugged it, took it outside. It was like 20 degrees outside in February, and I was crying icicles on my patio. So just keep that in mind. And also 6X4, which went to a lot of hi-fi equipment, they'll do the same thing. So just keep that in the back of your head. I learned that the hard way.
That was a heater to cathode short failure mode.
Yeah, exactly. Greg, have you ever had that happen to you? You must know about that.
Well, I know about it. Thankfully, I've never had it happen to me, but yeah, there is a 6X, there's another tube that I've heard recommended to replace that with. It's supposed to be a little more stable. I can't remember the number off the top of my head, but it's a variation of the 6X5. I think it's a 4-digit tube.
I sold a Zenith at Brookline, in which the transformer had a problem. It was a Zenith, and it had a 6X5 in it.
Yeah.
I was lucky. I just make this quick. I was able to find a gentleman. I put it up on a thread on the web, and a gentleman in California who was actually a Chevy car guy. He actually had a 47 Chevy truck that was used on an Air Force base, and he kind of made like a street rod out of it. And we were back and forth on the web, and he had a new old stock transformer in the can, the original Zenith replacement part, and I bought it from him for like $80, and he shipped it to me, and I put it back in there, and radio is fine. I still have the radio; it still works.
Oh,
But now
great.
it's used.
Cool.
So,
Yeah.
you know, it had a happy ending anyway.
Oh, that's good. Howard,
Oh my
is
God.
this your table? Is this yours? I think it's yours.
Yes, that is.
Oh, so Western Auto. Yes, I remember that. Yes.
Mhm.
Unusual radio.
Those are presets on top, Howard.
Yes. Yep,
Oh, okay.
those are the preset buttons.
Cute.
Those are the kind they're mechanical, aren't they? You gotta take the push button off, and then there's a screw under there that you can adjust them.
Actually, all you do is you loosen up the push button, just undo it a couple turns, set the
Mhm.
tuner to where you want it, then screw the push in the knob. Push in the button and screw it back in. It kind of rests on a cam,
Yeah, I
Um,
seem to remember
it's-
that. Yeah,
and it does okay.
yeah. It gets you close anyhow, right?
Right.
Yeah, it's probably with most of those mechanical ones that was usually what you hope for is proximity, and that's about it. You got it right on. You were doing well. I think there's the other one you were selling there.
It's a very similar cabinet, just a slightly different dial cutout than the
Oh,
Plascon Western Auto, and that was a battery set that I converted to AC.
Hmm.
So that has all the 1-volt tubes, but it's a nice. They both play beautifully, and since they're so small and they go in nice boxes, I usually bring them with really no intention to sell them, but just to have them there in case somebody with money walks into the place.
Right.
And to kind of make Brookline look like we get some good high-end stuff there, or
We
at
always
least
have good stuff.
respectable.
But
Yep.
you do bring up the average there, Howard. You always have good stuff. Speaking of which,
RCA.
that's very
Yes.
nice. Playing
Yeah.
RCA Canadian says so, the label says.
Yeah, I
Yes.
think that the most of the ones I've seen of this model, the knobs for the presets on the bomb, they're square.
Yeah,
And I
That's
think also
correct.
the American set had a tuning eye.
right in the middle.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's also correct. The T60 and the T62
Mhm.
are the American ones. This says model A1, and I questioned it when I first got it if the round ones were supposed to be there, but you can see a piece of paper next to it in the lower right-hand corner, and sure enough, in the picture, it shows round ones. I don't think you'll get that in the but anyway, they are round and they are supposed to be round. And I kind of like the cabinet on this one with the wraparound grill a little better than I like the
Yeah.
RCA T60.
I agree.
I did consider punching a hole and putting a tuning eye in this one, actually.
That's funny.
It's,
At the Howard Special.
I actually just sold a P62. It had
Howard,
the
on that radio, did it actually have the leather straps behind the push button that actually they'd stretch and mechanically pull it to the station?
That's correct. And I think there's one of those push buttons where the strap is actually broken, but 5 out of those 6 do work.
That's a common problem for the American one. I guess that one too then. Pretty radio.
Yeah, I think that's
It's
more than,
nice.
I think at more than fair asking price there, Howard.
That's the I don't want to sell it number.
Yeah.
What the hell is that?
That's what.
That's one of them
So-
Russian radios, isn't it?
That's a Zvezda 54. I did sell that to the other Bruce Burgess in Royalston, not the one in Middlebury. So he did buy that.
Very nice.
Yeah.
In the appropriate Russian color too, no less.
Yeah.
Does it sound as nice as it looks?
It sounds pretty good. However, this one I think just had maybe some. It was very scratchy on the tuning, but when you tune it in, it does sound nice. As nice as it looks now, but it does sound pretty good.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool. So Nyko.
Yes.
Oh,
I think it's
And
an
I
iCoscope.
I had that price to move, and it sold pretty quick. I think I had $5 on it, and it even had a trace.
yikes! That's a awesome deal.
Hmm.
Yeah, $5. You are right. Jeez, I had seen that. Oh, Westinghouse TV. Oh, no, automatic radio. This is like a car radio. I would expect. Made in Boston.
Huh.
Kind of
That
cool.
looks old. I wouldn't be surprised. That was a 6-volt, not a 12-volt.
I would expect you're right.
Yeah, that's a 6-volt. Automatic was the only one that made an automobile radio with a tuning eye.
Oh,
and
right.
I had that on at one of our meets, and it's actually a very nice performing auto radio. But
And with the tuning eye, that's a
yeah,
big win. Big win. Yeah, I thought it was cool because you don't see these very often floating about in flea markets. Lo and behold, there it is. That's in pretty good shape overall. Not perfect, but Crosley. I guess this is.
Oh, it's even retaining the lucite handle.
Yeah.
is that original for those?
Sure.
Yes.
Mhm.
Really?
Yeah, it's like
Some of them had them, some of them didn't.
I never
Crosby
knew that.
at the backwards dial. They started at the high end instead of
Yeah,
go high to low instead of low to high.
yeah. Grundig did a similar thing in that regard.
Supposed to think wavelength.
I'm sorry.
You're supposed to think wavelength.
Ah,
Yeah.
right. Uh, okay, Rose.
Is that a Variac?
Could be. Could be. Rather elegant looking unit from, I'd say, what, 40s, maybe 30s, 40s. Kind of cool.
What is it?
Bob
Oh.
surmised a Variac, but
Athermy.
is this hold on.
It's
Oh,
more
this
medical
is a
quackery.
medical quack
This is
thing.
yes, this was Ken Silvestri's table. And he said this is, I remember now, it just took me a moment. This has everything, all the original documentation. You can see this right here, the radiothermy elements of radiothermy, and all these special probes, and see, electrosurgical set, fun for the whole family. All these, he had that, and that's why I'm so mad. And I'll apologize again. When I went through the video, walking through all of the rows, I managed to forget to turn around and catch two tables, and this was Ken's and Ross's table adjacent, and I just spaced out. I thought I caught everybody, but I caught like 95% of everybody. I missed two. Darn it. But this is full documentation. He was showing me has all the bells and whistles. Just bring a friend to play with, to try upon. But yeah, that's really cool. I mean, look at it. It's all in wonderful condition.
I wonder if it buzzes when they're operating, you hit the edges.
Yeah, see, and this was the,
So
all
like
the
a
accessories.
surgical set.
Look at all these accessories. I mean,
Yeah,
look at this, needle surgical set,
there you go.
what else we have here? We've got a double needle gynecology double needle surgical set. Oh my God, really does meant to cover everything. Universal single needle surgical set, electromagnetic tissue. Is that right? Cutting set. Plank needle.
Okay, I'm 6 years, I'm
I
sorry.
guess if you're really busy on the patient, you can get a foot switch. While your hands are doing something to kill them, you use the foot switch to actually do the work.
Yeah.
No, it's pretty
Wow.
scary stuff. Welcome to the dark ages.
Well, we are getting close to Halloween, so this
Yeah,
is
there
a
we go.
perfect gift.
Exactly.
At age 10, I had a wart burned off my foot with one of those things, and it was okay for the first quarter mile home until the local anesthetic wore off, and man, did that hurt.
So we have some witnesses and some patients from these devices.
Survivors.
Well, Brad, if you still need some work done, I'm sure Ken would give you a hand. Oh yeah, see all of these scary looking accessories. It's definitely something that should be on like a sci-fi movie, horror movie from the 30s. All you need is a Jacob's ladder for the full effect. Good stuff. This is really cool. Ken had a good table, but that was really cool.
I want to have a beer with this guy.
But let's show this harmonic distortion analyzer. Does not calibrate, however. Oh. And a Sony boombox, which there are a number of these made, but yes, looks to be in good shape for a CD player, cassette deck. It looks like to the left here. So you get it all. That was probably that early '80s, probably mid '80s transitional boom boxes for those who had both. Kind of cool, really. And then a Radio Shack, digital malfunctions. They're rough there, but still a pretty decent set.
The X390, okay. They actually made one of them with a cassette recorder on it, so you could actually record off the radio.
Oh yeah, no question. No. Actually, boys, what I should do is I should stop at this one. It'll be easy to remember. We stopped at the digital malfunction.
Digital malfunction, no extra charge for the digital malfunction.
Comes standard. And in fact, back in the day, we said the ride Radio Shack. We'd say they came out of the factory that way, but now I have a much soft spot for Radio Shack, so that was more.
I'm proud to say that was the first job I ever worked at that I got fired from.
Oh, that's funny to see, but
It's a long story.
That's funny. Well, you'll have to share it next time there, Bob.
Maybe next time around, I'll tell you what happened.
Sounds good. So, boys, I guess what I should do is I'll stop sharing here, and I'll sort of wrap things up and cut you guys loose. But it was a fun meeting, lots of fun things to see, and appreciate everybody getting in there. And like I said, 3 weeks from now, we will pick this up. And because I imagine, Tom, if you can make it, we'll see more photos from Friedrichshafen and more fall Brooklyn. There's still plenty of fun things to see, and we'll go from there. So in the interim, I wish you guys a good 3 weeks. I imagine we'll be talking to you over the usual Groups.io chat. And you guys stay well.
You too, John. Good seeing everybody.
Yeah, thanks everybody. Good seeing you guys.
Take care, everybody.
And we'll see you soon.